Are you trying to figure out if you're non-binary? Or maybe just trying to figure out what this whole non-binary thing is? In this video, I'm going to give you 10 tips that I've discovered along my journey that might help you figure out what non-binary means and figure out whether it's a label that applies to you. Hello everyone, welcome back and happy Pride Month. When I realized that I was trans, the first question that came to mind was, well, am I a trans woman or am I non-binary? Most of us grew up surrounded by the gender binary, where you're either male or you're female and that's it. But as more and more people are sharing their stories and more research is being done, we're starting to realize that we can't place all 7 billion people in the world neatly into one of two boxes. And that's really cool. That being said, it can be really difficult to find out where exactly one fits on the gender spectrum, and so in this video, I'm going to share with you 10 tips that I use to help me find out where I fit, and hopefully they'll help you too. If they do, please be sure to let me know down in the comments which tips were most helpful. Anyway, let's start with tip number 1. Research non-binary identities. From gender fluid to agender to gender queer, there are so many more gender identities than the two binary options that most of us are familiar with. So take the time to research them and see if any of them sound like you. And feel free to do this if you're cis too. It's a great way to learn about non-binary identities, and I think there's a lot of value in really knowing who you are after researching it and figuring it out, as opposed to just assuming that you're cis and straight as the default. Tip number 2, try out different pronouns. Most people use he, him, or she, her pronouns, but now more than ever you've got more people using the gender neutral they, them pronouns, like they left their phone here, I hope they come back for it. And a few people even use neo-pronouns or new pronouns like z, zir, or am, such as Z went to get the paper, or I saw M yesterday at the farmer's market. I might be totally mispronouncing those, and I'm sorry if I am, but my point is that talking about yourself in the third person can be a fun and helpful way to figure out if you're non-binary. Mind you, non-binary people can still use he, him, and she, her pronouns, and I've even heard of some binary people using they, them pronouns, either as an act of solidarity or just because they like the way it feels. It's all about what makes you feel comfortable, but if you feel most comfortable with pronouns besides he, him, or she, her, it might be a good sign that your identity is somewhere beyond the gender binary. Tip number 3, try out new names. One of the most exciting things about being trans, in my opinion, is getting to try out new names and figuring out which one fits you best. And if you find yourself gravitating towards certain names that are kind of gender neutral, like Alex or Jordan or Riley, it might just be a sign that you're not quite aligned with one of the two binary genders. Of course, there are plenty of binary people who have more gender neutral names and plenty of non-binary people who have more gendered names. So remember that these aren't rules, they're just tips that might help you along the way. Tip number 4, go shoe shopping. And no, I don't literally mean shoe shopping, though I'm not going to question the effectiveness of a little retail therapy. When I was trying to figure out exactly where I was in terms of gender, I used this analogy of trying on shoes to help explain what I was feeling. So when I tried on the men's shoes, they were like 5 sizes too small. It hurt to try to fit in them, and I didn't like the design. And while I liked the design of the women's shoes, they were about a size too big at the time. They didn't quite fit. So when I first started questioning my gender and figuring things out, it was the non-binary shoes that fit like a glove. So while you're looking at new names and pronouns and identities, imagine that they're a pair of shoes and take note of how they fit and how they look. And don't forget, it's totally okay if a pair of shoes fits for a little bit and then as time moves on, you find that another pair of shoes works better for you. Tip number 5, pretend you're a sim and design your ideal self. You can draw it out, imagine it, write it out, or even use a game like The Sims. The key here is to get a picture in your head of what your ideal self or your future self might look like. Do you have long hair? Short hair? No hair? What color is your hair? Do you have any body modifications like tattoos or piercings? Are your features more masculine or feminine? Both? Neither? Picture your future self from head to toe and see what resonates with you. Non-binary people don't necessarily have a specific look, but having a clearer picture of your gender expression might help you figure out your gender identity. Tip number 6, take a few minutes to fill out the gender unicorn. It's a really cool tool that allows you to map out where along the spectrum you fit in terms of biological sex, romantic orientation, sexual orientation, gender expression, and gender identity. This is what mine looks like, and it was such a massive help for me as I was trying to figure out how all the different pieces of me fit together. Tip number 7, see if you resonate with other members of the non-binary community. I think a big part of finding out who you are is finding other people who are like you, so I've included links to some non-binary YouTubers down in the description below. And of course, if you like their content, don't forget to subscribe to them, and me while you're at it. Thanks. Tip number 8. Imagine this hypothetical scenario. You're out at a trivia night or something along those lines, and it's a battle of the sexes. So you have the men at one table and the women at another table, but you see that there's a third table where the non-binary folks are getting ready. Which table are you going to join? Or here's another hypothetical example. You're out and about and suddenly you have to use the restroom. So over here you have the men's restroom and over here you have the women's restroom, but in between there's a restroom labeled non-binary. Now, all safety issues aside, which one do you choose? Which one do you feel most comfortable using? If you chose the non-binary option for one or both of these hypothetical scenarios, it might be an indication that you're non-binary. Tip number 9. Pay attention to signs from the universe. I'm a spiritual person, and I firmly believe that God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, leaves signs that help us figure out who we're meant to be. I'll never forget this one time when I was scrolling through Instagram, and this one LGBT account had a post where it was like, comment your emojis down below. And they had different emojis for different genders, sexualities, etc. And the emoji for non-binary people was a green heart. And the very next day, I walked into my kitchen where I'm filming this right now, and there was a green heart sitting there in the middle of the floor. It was almost like the universe was saying, yep, you're on the right path, keep it up. And for the past couple of weeks, I've actually been wondering whether or not I really was non-binary, but just a couple of days ago, a non-binary follower of mine DM'd me on Instagram, and the message was a green heart. It almost felt like the universe was saying, nope, you were right the first time, trust yourself more. So pay attention to the signs you've been receiving, and they might just show you who you're supposed to be. And tip number 10, if you want to be non-binary, there's probably a really good chance that you are. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are plenty of non-binary people who wish that they weren't non-binary, but if you reach this point in the video and you're saying, dang it, I thought I was non-binary, that's really the only sign you need. You and you alone get to decide your gender identity. So if you feel in your heart that you're non-binary, you don't need some random person on the internet to tell you what you already know. Trust yourself and be the person who you know you are. Figuring out your identity can be a difficult process, and honestly it can be one that lasts a long time, but I hope that some of these tips were able to help you out along your way. And just remember, there's no rush to figure it out. If I did help out, don't forget to let me know down in the comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with anyone who might find this information helpful. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!